I thought I knew what a bad day looked like until my wife decided to redefine the concept entirely. Picture this. Me, Ryan Cole, 38 years old, walking through the front door of our pristine suburban home after closing a major IT contract, ready to celebrate with a beer and maybe some takeout Chinese. Instead, I got served a reality sandwich that would make a prison meal look appetizing. "I'm pregnant," Jenna announced from the couch, not even bothering to look up from her phone. "It's Mason's." Mason, my business partner. The guy who'd been coming to our barbecues for 3 years, drinking my beer, and apparently doing a lot more than just shaking my hand. I stood there holding my briefcase like an idiot, processing this information the way my computer processes a corrupted file. Lots of spinning, no useful output. "And before you ask," she continued, finally gracing me with eye contact, "yes, he satisfies me in ways you never could. We've been together for 8 months. 8 months. I did the math quickly. That covered our anniversary dinner, my birthday, and Christmas. Merry Christmas to me, I guess. The thing is," Jenna said, crossing her legs with the casual air of someone discussing the weather, "I'm not ready to give up this life. The house, the wedding plans, the financial security. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to be the father on paper, and we're all going to pretend this conversation never happened." I set down my briefcase very carefully. When your world implodes, apparently you focus on the small details. The briefcase made a soft thud on the hardwood floor we'd spent 3 weekends refinishing together last summer. "Let me get this straight," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "You're carrying another man's child, you've been cheating on me for most of our relationship, and your solution is for me to play house while you continue your affair?" "Don't be dramatic, Ryan. It's not an affair anymore. It's just how things are now." Just how things are now. Like she'd rearranged the furniture instead of detonating a nuclear bomb in our living room. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed a beer from the refrigerator, twisted off the cap, took a long drink. Jenna watched me with the expression of someone waiting for a tantrum that wasn't coming. "You seem surprisingly okay with this," she said, and for the first time, I heard a note of uncertainty in her voice. "Oh, I'm processing," I replied. "Just give me a minute to appreciate the full scope of your plan. You want me to raise Mason's kid, pay for Mason's mistakes, and presumably watch you two laugh about what a sucker I am behind my back. It doesn't have to be like that." "Right, it could be worse." I pulled out my phone and started scrolling through our shared banking app. Joint checking account, joint savings, the money market account we'd been building for the wedding. With a few taps, I transferred everything to accounts with only my name on them. "What are you doing?" Jenna's voice had lost its casual confidence. "Taking inventory," I said. "Funny thing about joint accounts. Either party can move the money anytime they want. I'm wanting right now." Her phone buzzed. Bank notification. Her face went pale as she read it. "You can't do this." "Actually, I can. I just did. Amazing what you learn when you actually read the fine print on financial documents. Unlike some people, I pay attention to details." I finished my beer and headed toward the stairs. "I'll be sleeping in the guest room. You can have the master bedroom until you figure out where you're going next." "Ryan, wait." I paused on the bottom step. "What?" "This doesn't have to end badly for us." I looked at her sitting there on our couch, in our living room, surrounded by the life we'd built together, and I felt something cold and calculating settle into place where my heart used to be. "Jenna," I said, "it already has." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The next morning, I woke up with the kind of clarity that only comes from having absolutely nothing left to lose. Jenna had already left for her job at the PR firm, probably running to Mason to cry about the money situation. Good. Let them panic. I made coffee and started planning. In my business, we call it system architecture, mapping out all the components and how they interact before you build anything. Same principle applied here, except instead of designing software, I was designing revenge. My phone rang. Paul Morrison, my oldest friend and the closest thing I had to a brother. Ex-cop turned private investigator, which made him exactly the right person to call. "You sound weird," he said without preamble. "What happened?" I told him everything. Paul listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I appreciated about him. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "So what's the plan?" he asked. "I'm going to destroy them. Completely. Legally." "I like it. What do you need?" "Information. I need to know everything about what they've been doing, where they've been going, who knows about it. Can you handle that?" "Give me 48 hours. After hanging up, I opened my laptop and started drafting an email. The subject line read, "Wedding planning dinner, this Saturday, important update." I sent it to our entire social circle, 32 people who'd been part of our lives for years. Jenna's friends from work, my college buddies, couples we'd met through various activities, everyone who'd been expecting to celebrate our upcoming marriage. The email was perfectly innocent. Jenna and I have some important news to share about our wedding plans. Please join us Saturday at 7 p.m. for dinner and drinks. We're covering everything. Just bring yourselves and prepare for some surprises. By noon, I had 28 confirmations. People love drama, even when they don't know they're walking into it. I spent the rest of the day at the office, acting normal, while my business partner, the father of my fiancée's child, tried to make small talk about quarterly projections. Mason Grant looked exactly like what he was, a guy who'd gotten everything handed to him and assumed the universe owed him more. Trust fund baby who'd bought into my company when I needed capital, then spent 3 years taking credit for my ideas. "You seem distracted today," Mason said, leaning against my office doorframe with that casual arrogance I'd somehow tolerated for years. "Just thinking about the future," I replied. "A lot of changes coming." "Yeah, Jenna mentioned you two had a talk. She seemed pretty upset this morning." I looked up from my computer. "She told you about our conversation?" Mason's smile was the kind you see on people who think they're untouchable. "We don't keep secrets from each other." "That's beautiful, really. True love is rare." He missed the sarcasm completely. "It is. I mean, I never expected to fall this hard for someone, especially someone who was already with..." He gestured vaguely in my direction. "Someone already with someone inadequate?" "I wouldn't put it that way." "How would you put it?" Mason straightened up, sensing dangerous ground. "Look, Ryan, I know this is complicated, but we're all adults here. Maybe we can work something out that benefits everyone." "I'm sure we can. In fact, I'm planning something special for this weekend. A real celebration." That evening, Jenna came home to find me cooking dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. But she looked suspicious anyway. "You're in a good mood," she said, dropping her purse on the counter. "Why wouldn't I be? I'm getting married soon. To someone who's carrying another man's child and thinks I'm too stupid to figure out a better option." "Ryan, relax. I'm not going to make a scene. I invited everyone over Saturday night to discuss our wedding plans. Figured we should tell our friends the good news about the pregnancy." The color drained from her face. "You can't." "Can't what? Share our joy? Let people know they're going to be honorary aunts and uncles? I thought you'd be thrilled." "You don't understand. If this gets out, it'll ruin everything. My job, Mason's reputation, the business." I served myself a plate of pasta and sat down at our kitchen table. "Then I guess you'd better figure out how you want to handle Saturday night. What do you want?" "I want honesty. I want people to know who they're really dealing with. I want consequences." Jenna stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Maybe she was. Maybe I was too. "You're not the man I thought I knew," she said. "Funny," I replied, twirling pasta around my fork. "I was just thinking the same thing about you." Paul called me Friday morning with a voice full of grim satisfaction. "You're going to love this," he said. "Also hate it, but mostly love it." "Give me the bad news first." "They've been planning this for months. Mason's been telling people at the country club that he's going to buy out your share of the business. Apparently Jenna's been feeding him inside information about your finances, your client relationships, everything." I felt that cold calculation settle deeper into my chest. "And the good news?" "They're both idiots. Mason's been bragging about the affair to anyone who'll listen. I've got 3 witnesses who'll swear he called you a pathetic loser who can't satisfy his own woman. Plus, I found the hotel receipts." "Hotel receipts?" "Charged to the business account. Mason's been writing off his affair as company expenses. That's not just cheating, that's fraud." I smiled for the first time in days. "Paul, you beautiful genius. There's more. Jenna's been planning to take half of everything in the divorce, including the house. She's already talked to a lawyer. But here's the thing. She doesn't know about the prenup clause you had me review last year." The prenup. I'd almost forgotten about that. Jenna had insisted we sign one to protect both our interests, but she'd been so focused on protecting her PR company that she'd missed the infidelity clause I'd insisted on. If either party cheated, they forfeited their claim to marital assets. "How solid is our evidence?" "Solid enough to bury them both. You want me to come to your dinner party tomorrow?" "Wouldn't miss it for the world." Saturday evening arrived with the kind of crisp autumn air that makes everything feel possible. I'd spent the day preparing, not just food, but a presentation, Photos, documents, a timeline that would make everything crystal clear for our guests. By 7:15, my living room was packed with friends and colleagues, everyone chatting and drinking wine, waiting for the big announcement. Jenna sat on the couch looking like she was facing a firing squad. Mason stood near the fireplace, still playing the role of supportive friend, completely unaware that he was about to become the evening's entertainment. "Thanks for coming, everyone," I said, standing up and getting their attention. Jenna and I wanted to share some news about our relationship and our future plans. 30 pairs of eyes focused on me expectantly. I could see Kira, Jenna's best friend from work, practically bouncing with excitement. She loved being the first to know anything. First, I want to thank Mason for being such a good friend and business partner, really going above and beyond to support our relationship. Mason raised his wine glass with a smug smile. Always happy to help? In fact, he's been so supportive that he's going to be a father figure in our lives very soon. Confused murmurs rippled through the room. Jenna's face had gone completely white. "You see, Jenna's pregnant. Congratulations are in order." I raised my own glass. To Mason and Jenna and their beautiful baby. The silence that followed was deafening. You could have heard a pin drop in the next county. "Ryan," Jenna whispered, "please don't do this." "Do what? Tell the truth? Share our joy?" I walked over to my laptop, which was connected to the TV screen. I thought everyone might want to see some pictures from the happy couple's romantic getaway last month. The first image appeared on the screen. Mason and Jenna at a restaurant, clearly on a date, his hand covering hers across the table. The timestamp showed it was taken 3 weeks ago, when Jenna had told me she was visiting her sister. "That's," Kira started, then stopped. "My fiancé and my business partner," I confirmed. "But wait, there's more." More photos. Hotel lobby, Mason's car in the parking lot, text message screenshots that Paul had somehow obtained. I didn't ask how, showing explicit conversations between them. 8 months, I continued conversationally. That's how long this has been going on. 8 months of lies, manipulation, and planning. They've been laughing at all of us. Mason finally found his voice. "This is insane. You can't just what? Show people who you really are?" I clicked to the next slide. Here are the hotel receipts. Charged to our business account as client entertainment expenses. Turns out Mason's been committing tax fraud while he ruins my marriage. The room erupted. Friends demanding explanations, voices raised in shock and anger. Jenna started crying, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of rage at being exposed. "You bastard," she hissed at me. "You planned this." "I learned from the best," I replied. "You've been planning to destroy me for months. I just decided to return the favor." Mason stepped forward, his face flushed with anger and embarrassment. "You think you're so smart? You have no idea what you've just done. I can destroy your business, ruin your reputation." "With what? The company you've been defrauding? The reputation you just lost in front of 30 witnesses?" I gestured to our friends, who were staring at Mason like he'd grown a second head. "Good luck with that." Kira stood up, her face a mask of disgust. "Jenna, how could you? We've been planning your wedding for months. I've been helping you pick out flowers for a marriage you were sabotaging the entire time." "It's not what it looks like," Jenna started, but even she seemed to know how pathetic that sounded. "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "And now everyone knows it." People started leaving. Not storming out, that would have been dramatic. Instead, they filed out quietly, the way you leave a funeral. Disappointed, disgusted, done. Within an hour, the house was empty except for Jenna, Mason, and me. "This isn't over," Mason said. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw what I should have seen years ago. A spoiled child who'd never faced real consequences for anything. "You're right," I said. "It's not." Monday morning brought the consequences. I arrived at the office to find Mason already there, pacing around the conference room like a caged animal. Our 3 employees sat at the table looking uncomfortable, and clearly they'd already gotten an earful. "We need to talk," Mason announced when I walked in. "Good morning to you too," I replied, pouring myself coffee from the machine in the corner. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" "Cut the act, Ryan. You've made your point. Now let's figure out how to move forward like adults." I sat down at the head of the table, my usual spot, though Mason had apparently been trying to claim it. "I'm listening. First, you're going to apologize to Jenna. What you did Saturday was cruel and unnecessary. Second, we're going to restructure the business partnership. I think it's time for some changes in leadership." Our employees exchanged glances. Jennifer, our lead developer, looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Changes in leadership, I repeated. Meaning you want to push me out of the company I built. Meaning we need someone in charge who can make rational decisions instead of emotional ones. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app. Say that again, for the record. What are you doing? Documenting your attempt to force me out of my own business. Please continue. Tell everyone how you plan to steal my company after stealing my fiancée. Mason's face flushed red. You can't record private conversations? Actually, I can. Single-party consent state? Look it up. I set the phone on the table. Now, you were saying something about rational decisions? This is ridiculous. What's ridiculous is thinking you could commit fraud with company funds and then blackmail me into giving you control. I looked around the table. Did everyone know that Mason's been charging his affair to our business account? Hotel rooms, dinners, weekend trips, all written off as client entertainment. Jennifer's eyes widened. Is that true? Mason started to speak, but I cut him off. It's all documented. Receipts, credit card statements, everything. Our accountant is going to have a field day with this. You're bluffing. I opened my laptop and pulled up a spreadsheet. 17 separate incidents over 8 months. Total fraudulent charges, $12,437, plus interest and penalties when the IRS finds out. The room went quiet. Mason stared at the screen like it might catch fire. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to buy out my partnership share at fair market value, plus damages for the fraudulent charges. You're going to do it within 30 days, and you're going to take full responsibility for the tax implications. That's insane. I don't have that kind of money. Then you'd better figure something out, because the alternative is criminal charges. Mason stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. You think you've won? This isn't over, not even close. Actually, it is, but feel free to keep digging your hole deeper. He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. Our employees sat in stunned silence. Is everyone okay? I asked. Jennifer nodded slowly. Are we going to be okay? The business, I mean? Better than okay. We're going to be great. Mason's been useless for years. You all know it. Now we can actually focus on building something instead of managing his ego. That afternoon, Paul called with an update. Mason's been making calls, trying to line up investors to buy you out. Problem is, word's already spreading about Saturday night. Nobody wants to touch him? And Jenna? Staying with her sister. Her family found out about the pregnancy and the affair. Let's just say they're not thrilled. Good. What about the house? That's the beautiful part. Remember that prenup clause? Her lawyer just realized what it means. She gets nothing. The house, the savings, the investments, all yours. I felt a grim satisfaction settle in my chest. She made her choice. There's something else. Mason's been asking around about you. Personal stuff, financial records, client lists, anything he can use as leverage. Let him look. I've got nothing to hide. Maybe, but desperate people do stupid things. Watch your back. Paul was right to be concerned. Wednesday evening, I came home to find my front door slightly ajar. Not broken, unlocked. Someone with a key had been inside. I called Paul before going in. Someone's been in my house. Are you inside? No, I'm calling the police. Good. Don't go in until they clear it. 20 minutes later, 2 patrol officers walked through the house while I waited on the front porch. They found evidence of a search. Drawers opened, papers scattered. My home office clearly rifled through. Anything missing? Officer Martinez asked. I looked around carefully. I don't think so, but someone was definitely looking for something. Any idea who might have done this? I thought about Mason's threats, his desperation, the way he'd looked when I'd cornered him with the fraud evidence. I have some suspicions. We'll dust for prints, but if they had a key, I know, I'm changing the locks tomorrow. After the police left, I walked through my house now, not ours, and tried to figure out what Mason had been looking for. Financial records, client information, something to use as blackmail. Then I realized what was missing. The spare laptop I kept in my home office, the one with backup files for all our business projects. I called our IT security company immediately. Within an hour, I'd remotely wiped the stolen laptop and changed every password Mason might have access to. If he wanted to play dirty, he'd pick the wrong guy to mess with. Thursday morning, I was ready for war. The war came sooner than expected. I was sitting in my office Friday morning when Jennifer knocked on my door, looking worried. Ryan, there's someone here to see you. Says it's about Mason. The woman who walked into my office was professionally dressed, carrying a briefcase and wearing the kind of expression that meant trouble. She introduced herself as Detective Sarah Walsh, White Collar Crime Division. Mr. Cole, I need to ask you some questions about financial irregularities in your business accounts. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady. What kind of irregularities? Unauthorized transfers, falsified expense reports, potential embezzlement. Your partner, Mason Grant, filed a complaint yesterday claiming you've been stealing from the company. I stared at her. He filed a complaint against me? He provided evidence of suspicious transactions dating back 6 months, large cash withdrawals, payments to shell companies, altered financial records. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. Can you explain these? The documents she showed me were my own financial records, but they'd been altered. Transactions I'd never made, companies I'd never heard of, amounts that would constitute serious felonies. These are fake, I said immediately. Someone doctored these records. That's what they all say, Mr. Cole. I pulled out my phone and called Paul. I need you here now. Bring everything we have on Mason. What's wrong? Mason just tried to frame me for embezzlement. Detective Walsh raised an eyebrow. Is that your lawyer? Private investigator. And yes, I want him here before I say anything else. Paul arrived 20 minutes later with a briefcase full of documents. He took one look at the altered records and started laughing. This is amateur hour, he said to Detective Walsh. Look at the metadata on these files. They were created yesterday on a computer registered to Mason Grant. How can you tell? Paul opened his laptop and pulled up a forensic analysis program. Every digital document has a fingerprint. Creation date, modification history, source computer. These files were created Wednesday evening and modified Thursday morning. Want to guess what Mr. Cole was doing Wednesday evening? Filing a police report about a break-in, I said. Exactly. Mason stole Ryan's backup laptop, used it to create fake financial records, then tried to frame him for his own crimes. Paul handed Detective Walsh a flash drive. Everything's on there. The real financial records, the hotel receipts showing Mason's fraud, witness statements from Saturday night's dinner party. Detective Walsh plugged in the flash drive and spent 10 minutes reviewing the files. Her expression shifted from suspicious to annoyed. Mr. Grant wasted a lot of people's time, she said finally. Is that it? I asked. For you, yes. For him? She shook her head. Filing a false police report, attempted fraud, theft of computer equipment. He's looking at serious charges. After she left, Paul and I sat in my office, trying to process what had just happened. He actually thought he could frame you, Paul said, with your own stolen computer, using fake records that any first-year forensics student could debunk. Desperation makes people stupid. Speaking of stupid, there's something else. Jenna called me this morning. I looked up sharply. Why would she call you? She wants to make a deal. Says she has information about Mason that could help your case, but she wants something in return. What kind of information? She wouldn't say over the phone, but Ryan... Paul's expression was troubled. I think there's more to this story, something we don't know yet. That afternoon, I met Jenna at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, public place, witnesses everywhere. She looked terrible, pale, exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. You look awful, I said, sitting down across from her. Thanks. You always knew how to make a girl feel special. What do you want, Jenna? She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup like it was the only thing keeping her warm. I want to tell you the truth. Which truth? The one where you've been cheating for 8 months, or the one where you plan to steal my business? The truth about the baby. Something in her voice made me pay attention. What about it? There is no baby, Ryan. I made it up. I stared at her. What? I'm not pregnant. I never was. The whole thing was a lie. The coffee shop seemed to fade around us. Why would you lie about that? Because Mason was getting cold feet. He wanted to end things, go back to his ex-girlfriend in California. I needed something to force his hand, make him commit. She laughed bitterly. Joke's on me, right? He doesn't want a baby any more than he wanted a real relationship. I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. So everything, the confession, the demands, all of it, was based on a lie? I thought if I could make him believe he was going to be a father, he'd leave his ex and be with me. And I thought if I told you the baby was his, you'd be so hurt that you just go away. Make it easy. Make what easy? The divorce. The business takeover. Mason's been planning to push you out for months. He convinced me it would be better for everyone if we just took control and you started over somewhere else. I sat back in my chair, trying to process this. You destroyed our relationship, humiliated yourself in front of all our friends, and threw away everything we built together for a man who doesn't even want you? Tears started running down her face. I know how it sounds. It sounds insane. Mason promised me things would be different once you were out of the picture. He said we could be together openly, that he'd support me, that we'd run the business together. She wiped her eyes with a napkin. But as soon as things got complicated, he started blaming me for everything. Said I was the one who ruined his reputation, that I was a liability. So now you want revenge on him too? I want to make this right. With you. I looked at the woman I'd planned to marry, sitting across from me in a coffee shop, crying over a man who'd used her as thoroughly as she'd tried to use me. It's too late for that, Jenna. I know, but I can help you destroy him. I don't need your help. He's already destroying himself. You don't understand. There's more. Mason's been embezzling money for years, not just the hotel receipts. He's got accounts you don't know about, clients he's been billing separately, and he's been planning to disappear. Disappear? He's got a plane ticket to California for next week, one way. He's going to take whatever money he can and run. I felt that familiar cold calculation settling into place. Tell me everything. Monday morning, I walked into the office with a plan and a recording device. Jenna had given me everything, account numbers, client names, dates, amounts. Mason had been running a shadow business for 2 years, skimming money from our legitimate clients and funneling it into personal accounts. But I wasn't going to the police. Not yet. First, I was going to give Mason exactly what he deserved. I found him in his office, packing boxes. He looked up when I walked in, his face a mixture of defiance and fear. Come to gloat, he asked. Come to make you an offer. He stopped packing. What kind of offer? The kind where you walk away with your dignity intact instead of in handcuffs. I sat down in the chair across from his desk and pulled out a folder. I know about the shadow accounts, Mason. The clients you've been double billing, the money you've been stealing, the plane ticket to California. His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Henderson Construction, Riverside Development, Metrotech Solutions. Ring any bells? I opened the folder and spread out bank statements, invoices, and transaction records. 2 years of systematic theft. Almost $200,000. Mason slumped in his chair. How did you find out? You're not as smart as you think you are. And you picked the wrong woman to trust with your secrets. Jenna told you. Jenna told me everything. The fake pregnancy, your plans to skip town, the accounts in your name that I'm not supposed to know about. I leaned forward. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to transfer every stolen penny back to the company account. You're going to sign over your partnership share for exactly $1. And you're going to disappear from my life forever. And if I don't? I pulled out my phone and showed him the recording app. Then I called Detective Walsh and let her sort it out. Your choice. Mason stared at the phone, then at the documents spread across his desk. You're destroying me. No, Mason. You destroyed yourself. I'm just cleaning up the mess. It took 3 hours to complete the transfers. Mason sat at his computer, moving money back to accounts where it belonged, his hands shaking as he typed. When it was done, he signed the partnership dissolution papers without reading them. There, he said. Are you happy now? Getting there. I walked over to his office window, which looked out over the parking garage. Nice car, by the way. The BMW. Must have cost a fortune. What about it? Just wondering how you afforded it on your salary. I mean, before you started stealing from me. Mason followed my gaze and saw what I was looking at. His precious BMW, the one he'd been so proud of, was sitting in the parking garage covered in something that looked like paint. What did you do? Me? Nothing. But you might want to check your insurance policy. I hear comprehensive coverage is really important. He ran for the elevator. I followed, taking my time. By the time I reached the parking garage, Mason was standing next to his car, staring at what used to be a pristine silver sedan and was now a rainbow of colors spelling out thief across the hood, sides, and roof. This is vandalism, he said. This is art, I replied. Anonymous art. Could have been anyone. Paul emerged from behind a concrete pillar, holding a camera. Got some great shots of his reaction, he said. Should make a nice addition to the social media campaign. Social media campaign? Mason asked weakly. I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram. The photos were already posted, Mason's car, the bank records showing the returned stolen money, and a detailed explanation of everything that had happened, tagged with our company name, Mason's personal accounts, and about 50 mutual friends. You can't do this. Already did. Amazing how fast news travels these days. I bet your ex-girlfriend in California is seeing this right about now. Mason's phone started buzzing. Text messages, calls, notifications. His face crumpled as he realized the scope of what was happening. You've ruined me. You ruined yourself. I just made sure everyone knows about it. Paul handed me an envelope. Plane ticket, he said. Might want to cancel that trip to California. Pretty sure your welcome just got revoked. Mason took the envelope with shaking hands. How did you get your ticket? Same way I got everything else. You're not the only one with friends in useful places. I looked at Mason standing there next to his ruined car, holding his canceled plane ticket, his phone buzzing with angry messages from everyone he'd ever known. 3 days ago, he'd thought he was going to steal my business and my fiancée. Now he had nothing. There's one more thing, I said. Jenna's moving out of town, new job, fresh start. She wanted me to tell you goodbye. Where is she going? Somewhere far away from both of us. Smart woman when she wants to be. Mason looked around the parking garage like he was seeing it for the first time. What am I supposed to do now? I don't know, Mason. Maybe try being honest for once. See how that works out for you. I turned and walked toward the elevator, leaving him standing there in the ruins of his own making. Paul fell into step beside me. Think he learned his lesson? Paul asked. I think he learned that actions have consequences. Whether he learned anything useful, I shrugged. Not my problem anymore. The elevator doors closed, and I watched Mason shrink away through the gap. 3 months ago, I'd thought I knew what my life looked like. Marriage, business partnership, suburban happiness. All of it built on lies. Now I had something better. I had the truth, and I had the satisfaction of knowing that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys win and the bad guys get exactly what they deserve.